You're watching Next Pitch, the student athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Hi, welcome in. Anthony Levrets here, host of the Next Pitch podcast, and thank you for joining me today. It's got a great show coming up. Before we get to that, a little housekeeping. Just a reminder, we have all of our shows are underneath a channel. And the channel is the Next Pitch channel. So you can go in and follow the channel. And then the show that we do around youth sports is in there. The show I do with Dusty Hara, your weekly sports DNA with Dusty and Anthony is in there. Homefront, a new show that we're doing to help veterans, is in there. And then our mental performance series with Hannah Huseman is in there as well. So go in and follow the channel and then follow each one of the shows. And then please, if you like what we're doing, you like what you hear, share the show with your friends. Today, joined by Ryan Youngblood. First and foremost, great dude, but he is the CEO of PDX United, very large soccer organization here in the Portland metro area, and about 3,000 kids that go through their program every year. And we talk about all sorts of things related to youth sports, high school sports, college sports, his journey through high school, college, and professionally, philosophy about coaching, coaching your own child. He has a son, as I do, that we both have coached our own kids. We talk about that. Really, really enjoyable conversation. Super sharp and smart guy. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Without further ado, here's Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for coming in and doing this. I really appreciate it. I don't often get people to come into the studio, so I really appreciate you doing it. Before we get started, can you move that microphone just a little bit closer to you? That's perfect, right there. Perfect. I can still see you, and I can hear you better that way. All right. Thanks for coming in, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Excited to be here. Cool to be in a studio. Gets me out of the office and new environment. So looking forward to this.
We should, here in the Pacific Northwest, we don't normally get this sort of banner weather like this in April. The sun and should have done it outside, man.
Yeah, no kidding. It's beautiful, man. It's like June weather, July weather almost.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love it. All right, so let's dive in here. We're going to get into all things club soccer and youth sports, and I will have introduced you properly before we started here today, so people listening know. But you're currently the CEO of United PDX, a very large soccer club here in the Portland metro area. About 3,000 kids, right?
Yeah, roughly 3,000 kids each year coming through.
You didn't start there. You started somewhere else, right? So we're going to go through your journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll end up getting into club soccer. So growing up, where did you grow up? What was the kind of the journey for you as a young person, maybe with sports, but just more importantly, kind of your growing up as a kid? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, my youth experience is a little bit different. I was a military kid, so dad was in the Coast Guard. Bend has always been home base. That's where my grandparents were. That's where my parents met. They were actually, my dad was in between stations when I was born. So I was born in Bend.
I was going to say, because Bend isn't exactly a Coast Guard town.
No, it's not. They got some water there, but yeah, not where the Coast Guard hangs out typically. Yeah. But ultimately, he from there he went to Astoria. So I mean, I was super young, don't really remember Astoria at all. Kind of the point that I do remember was when we moved up to Valdez. So we were in Valdez, Alaska, super young there to kindergarten, preschool, that age range. And then really from there, we moved down to Coos Bay. And so Coos Bay is kind of where I started my journey with sports. Started playing all sports, soccer, baseball, basketball, did it all, recreational. And so that was fun. And then it was to the next spot,
Where did you go to Marshfield High School in Coos Bay?
No, so I was only in Coos Bay till, let's see, like second, third grade is when I moved. So pretty short. So a military family, moving every 3-4 years.
Okay. We moved around a ton when I was a kid too. And my dad was not in the military. He was a minister. Whole different show if I ever get into talking about that. But the value of sports for me, I lived in 3 different towns in the 8th grade, and went from Oak Ridge, Oregon to Sitka, Alaska, to Bandon, Oregon, all within about 4 months of each other. And sports is how I met people, how I had friends.
Yeah.
What was that like for you as a kid? How important was that athletics component to your life as you moved from one place to the next?
I'd say in many ways the lifeblood. It's how I connected. So anytime going to a new spot, being an athlete, I could step in and make friends instantly. And school was hard in some ways of finding your connecting place, but once you found your network of friends through sport, then that trickled into the school environment. Then you instantly had friends at the school. And the cycle would rinse and repeat every few years.
Yeah, it's not the most ideal way to move to live growing up like that, moving all over the place. But having that built-in community every time you land somewhere is certainly helpful.
Yeah, no, I would say that framework actually helped me when the time came to go to college. I was Bend was when my dad finally retired and we moved to Bend. It was kind of right around 6th grade year. And then I was 6th grade through high school. But I remember kind of halfway through high school, I was just getting antsy and like, I'm supposed to be moving. I'm ready to go. And ultimately, I had to wait a couple more years, but that helped prepare me for college. And, I was one of the kids that I left. I went back to the Midwest, saw something new, and I was ready for the adventure.
Where'd you end up graduating from high school?
Mountain View High School.
Mountain View High School in Bend.
Yep.
Pretty new at that time, right? Was that pretty new to
not so much. So like,
new?
yeah,
Okay.
back in that time, it was just Bend High School and Mountain View High School.
Okay.
And then I graduated in 99. And
Okay.
then I believe Summit was up and running the year after I left or the 2 years after, but pretty close.
Crazy what's happened over there.
Oh, that town, man, when we moved there, it was like 24,000 people. And
no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got 100 and
oh yeah,
125,000.
It's over that. And I think if you take the surrounding area,
100,000 people now, right?
It's a completely different place.
Pretty crazy. So went to University of Evansville, right?
Yep.
And the Purple Aces.
The Purple Aces, man. Riverboat Gambler.
Yeah, it's awesome. So how did you find Evansville? Like, what was as you went through the process of going from being a high school player in Mountain View High School in Bend, Oregon, to Evansville Purple Aces? Like, how did that happen?
We say this a lot in our industry, timing and relationships.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced it as well. Ultimately, my club coach at the time in Bend was their South African guy that was kind of on his career path, just kind of moving through the nation. He ended up taking a job for the women's assistant role out there and told them about myself and a couple other my teammates. And sure enough, I was one that went out on a visit, liked the school, it felt right. Thought it was going to be a new challenge, different environment, and signed me up. Let's go. Let's do this.
And stayed there the whole 4 years?
Yep. Played all 4 years there and had a great time. It was, we talk about sports and, how it takes us on a journey.
Yeah.
It allowed me to see a whole different side of the country and, all the different schools in the conference. We played in the Missouri Valley Conference. And getting to travel throughout the Midwest and some of the East Coast and South, awesome. I'm so grateful for that experience.
Yeah, I think I tell people this all the time. I've been from Bandon, Oregon, been to 43 states, and I think it's 17 countries.
Wow.
All because almost all of it because of that little round ball. And I've seen a lot of inside of hotels, airports, and gymnasiums in really cool places.
Yeah.
I need to go back there now when my son graduates from high school, being able to go back and seeing all those. But it's pretty remarkable what that journey and where whatever that sport is, it can take you as a young person to get the chance to play, whether it's collegiately or professionally. It's a remarkable journey.
Oh, it is. Even as a youth player, I think, there's so much of it. I try to tell people we can easily get caught up in the wins, the losses, just that whole structure of it. But it's really about the experience, the people you meet along the way, where the sport can take you, and just, what it teaches you about life.
Wow, that doesn't normally happen while we're doing this. So as you got done playing in collegiately, was it just at that time a natural transition for you to go to the pros, or I know things have changed, but I don't know enough about the history of soccer in our country.
Yeah.
So was it a natural transition, or how did that happen for you?
Not really. I mean, I think ultimately as a kid, I like many kids, I had I want to grow up and be a pro. I want to play on the national team, these types of things. And those
Was that a realistic? So in 1999, when you graduated from high school, was it, let's go back to 1994, 93, 92, when you were thinking about that as a kid, was that something that was readily available, or is that just changed so much over the last 20 years or so?
It's changed drastically. I'd say, my youth growing up, like the ability to watch a soccer game on TV, you had to go into a soccer store, or you'd have to wait for the national team to play. So the exposure for us wasn't really there, but when we get the opportunity to see the national team play, it's like, I want to do that. Right. And it wasn't actually until college that soccer was being shown on TV more on a regular basis. So you're looking at 1999, early 2000s. This is also, the MLS is fairly new at that point.
Yeah. What year did the MLS start?
Ooh, God, you put me on the spot. Yeah. It's
early
90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah. And so coming out of college, MLS was still very young. To make a living out of the sport, very, very challenging. So you're really trying to just continue your playing career. And I remember, junior, senior year, starting to look at, all right, college is coming to an end. What do I want to do? Do I want to go to grad school? Well, I still really want to play. And where can I go? How can I do this? And so working with my coaches at the school and university, and, getting advice from them and going to trials essentially. And so, I thought I was going to end up in Milwaukee. I went on a trial there, got the call back to come into preseason. And then a few weeks after that trial, heard that they folded their operation, because that was the nature of the industry, right? Like they're trying to build the professional cycle. And so next thing I know, I went to Atlanta for another trial, and then I came out to Portland, and very grateful that Portland was excited, and that worked out, brought me back to where I was from. And, that's how it all kind of shook out. It's been a great experience. I've been stuck here since. Great place to get stuck, but it's interesting. I've seen a lot of, teammates, people I played with that, they've ended up in Portland and they've stayed in Portland.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that there's, I've been all over the place, and there's places I'd rather visit than Portland. I don't think there's any place that I'd rather live than the Portland metro area. I think it's the friendliest group of people on the planet. It is just anywhere I've ever been. It's a really nice place.
It's hard to beat. It really is. My wife and I always talk when we leave and go somewhere else. It's like, could we move here? It's not Portland.
I'm going to
it's not
send
Oregon.
this to the Chamber of Commerce and see if we can do a little commercial.
You should. Yeah, give it some hype around Oregon and Portland.
All right, so you get done playing, and obviously soccer's in your blood, right? Had you grown up thinking, when I get done playing, I want to coach and I want to stay involved in the game? Or were you just laser focused on, I want to play this game as long as I can, get done playing, and like, oh shit, like it's, what am I going to do now? And coaching is on the radar.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I don't think I ever really fully looked at the career path that I'm in now as what I was going to be doing. That said, I coached while I was in college. One of the things I did freshman year was go to the YMCA and working with little ones. Yep. And then my junior and senior year, I actually took a team for the soccer club in town. And so I got to coach that and learn through that. Even in the summers when I was playing in the USL PDL league down in Florida, we'd be running camps. And so the whole time coaching was kind of circling me, so to speak. But when I stopped playing, I actually stepped into, finance for a little bit, worked in that industry, didn't really enjoy it, but, it gave me a taste of something else. And then it's like, this isn't really what I want to do. So started to kind of cycle back to coaching, and then it just took off. It was just a passion of really hard to describe of how much I enjoyed it. It was different than playing, but the interaction that I got with kids, seeing the light bulb moments go off with kids, just infectious in such a positive way.
Yeah. So it is remarkable. I don't miss the travel of college coaching, but what you just described, right? That interaction with young people, the journey you get to watch them go on and be a part of that. It is for young people out there that looking for a great profession to get into. There's nothing better to light your own fire, and it keeps you younger longer.
Oh, 100% keeps you younger.
Even if it doesn't keep you younger, at least you know the young lingo.
Yes, and you got to keep up with it, man.
That's
it is a dance.
That's right. All right, so you end up as a high school head coach here in the Portland metro area, Beaverton High School. I think you were the head coach there for 9 years, right?
Yeah, so like 8 or 9 years. Yeah.
What were, as you got into from, coaching a high school program, what were some of the challenges of coaching on a high school sport that you had to deal with, that you look back on, you're like, oh my God, if I'd have known that I was going to deal with this, I would not have stayed in this profession. I'm out of here.
I don't know if I'd say that was probably the real struggle for me. I think the harder struggle, and the struggle I see with a lot of young coaches coming out from a playing background, is I want to treat this environment like the professional environment or like the college environment. And well, you're not dealing with college players, you're not dealing with professional players. So really learning to understand, how do we meet the kids where they're at, and that they're coming from different walks of life, and really trying to be inspirational and aspirational for them, so that they can grow with the game, knowing that some of these kids aren't aspiring to get to that, collegiate or professional level. And you're really trying to build something, and what you get from team sports and the connection and the bond, build that so they can play, and bringing athletes together from different walks of life, different sport backgrounds, and playing through that environment and carrying that on and playing for school. That's like many times
front of the jersey.
Yeah. Many times for the vast majority of kids, they don't get to play collegiate sport. Right. So high school is that moment for them, and giving them that opportunity is really, really what it's about.
Did you have any parent problems? There's so many high school coaches that I know and talk to, that one of the reasons they got out of coaching is because of having to deal with parents.
Yeah, we deal with it on a pretty consistent basis, unfortunately. I would say in the high school realm for soccer is a little bit different. So high school isn't it's not the primary. Club soccer is the primary for the very aspirational players. And that's the year-round cycle. High school is almost a little bit of a holiday from that environment, to where kids get to go play with their friends at school, compete for their school, and it's a short season. But in the club scene, we deal with the vast array of parents and parent issues. And it's interesting now with where I'm at, coming into the game, being a young coach, versus now where I'm either at the age or older than a lot of the parents. My stage now is really trying to help educate parents on the process of youth sports, what it's about, the journey, how to support the athlete through it. And, it's a dance. And, as much as you want to try to convince everybody of a certain way, or, an idea of a way to go about this process, you can't convince them all.
So now you're CEO and obviously still coach of United PDX.
Mm-hmm.
Very large club here in the Portland metro. Are you guys the most kids is it the largest club in the state of Oregon? Or
we're one of the largest. Yeah, we're one of the big clubs. And one of the unique things about us is we offer a variety of pathways. We try to be a full service club, where if you're just coming into the sport, there's a place for you. If you're just looking to play more of a competitive level, not so much recreational, want to learn a little bit more, we have that level. And then if you're aspirational about trying to take this thing as far as you can go, we have that platform as well.
So let's talk about the philosophy of the club. I dug into your website, and you and I have talked, and I'll say this in the intro too, when I'm introducing you. Our sons are very good friends in high school, and so we've spent some time together having these conversations. I read on your website from one of your coaches. I don't even know which coach it was. It was in the blog from 2 times ago.
Oh yeah, Director Spotlight.
Yes,
yeah.
Director Spotlight. The unconditional support. This is for parents, right? Unconditional support, model sportsmanship, let coaches coach, communicate positively, and enjoy the journey. When I read it, I was like, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And most of that is also for coaches too, right? There's a ton, the let coaches coach part, like you can, don't be a jerk as a coach. Maybe you can put that in there in the middle there, but it's a great lesson. Where does that come from, and how do you guys implement that and train that into your kids and the parents?
It's a process. Just as a player going through the journey, teaching them how this is a process more than just result based. The same thing for coaches, for parents, the cycle of how we go about this, the interactions. Actually, the person that I believe wrote that specific article was Trevor Tharp, who's he's in education. He's at kind of the entry phase, our YDA program, where it bridges the gap from recreational coming into competitive. And, you know, Trevor, similar to myself, we're all kind of same age, similar experience. We witnessed this. We witnessed, you know, one of the things that article stemmed from is him sitting outside and watching parents come by and just starting to lay into kids right after a game. And, you know, that's not what the kids need. And we tried to let our coaches, hey, this is a player centric sport. It's not coach centric. So you're here to create the environment. You're here to allow the environment to teach. You're here to manipulate the environment as you see fit, and support the kids through this process so that they can own the journey. They can find, you know, the enjoyment of the sport and experiment with it, the success and failures that you find with it. It's the essence of life, right? Like that is life, trial and error, and get back up again and go again.
The whole yelling at kids after a game is one of the things that, I mean, you see it in all sports. It's not to just one. You could go to any youth sports from lacrosse to water polo and everything in between, and you're going to see it everywhere. And the overwhelming science, great think tank. I talk about these guys all the time on the show, but great think tank out of Michigan State University that all they do is study the relationship between players and their parents. And what kids constantly say in studies and surveys is, I want to hear my parents say, I love you, and I love watching you play and compete. They don't want to hear all the other stuff. And if parents could just get that down to where I love you, I love watching you play, and I'm going to drop you off and let the coaches that I trust coach you, there would be so much less volatility around that relationship with sport. And then one other bit of advice that I give parents all the time is, don't talk about the game for at least an hour after the game or practice. Just, I love you. I love watching you play. Let the adrenaline and the emotion wear off so that there isn't that volatility in that relationship around the game that the kid's supposed to be loving playing.
Totally. I mean, we have a 24-hour policy. Let it sit for 24 hours.
Give me that.
Then,
so what does that look like?
Well, like you said, sports, it's emotional,
which
right?
is one of the great things about it, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you, myself, we're all guilty of it. I had a game I was coaching not too long ago. This was a couple months ago. And I started, like, I'm a competitor. I want to win. That rides through me, but I'm also a coach and I have to remain calm. Yeah. Well, the emotions get the best of me. The team's not playing well. I'm trying to push my team. I'm kind of losing my composure. My team loses composure, right? I have to go back to the kids and be like, hey, this is also on me. Like, I've made a mistake here. That reflection process then winds me back. And then now I'm moving in a calm state, right? So, you know, as much as that we try to educate parents on this and players on this, you know, we as coaches, we're all involved in this process, in this experience. But ultimately the 24-hour process policy is to allow the emotions of the game to settle so that we're not making emotional decisions in the moment, right? Like, let it clear out, let it sit, have some reflection on it. And then once you have that information and that, like, the feelings of it all has settled, then go back and have a rational conversation with whatever the situation was, whether that's the parent talking to a coach about something, or even a parent talking to the kid, their child, or the coach talking to the players. We're starting to move even to post-game talk. Hey guys, we'll talk about it at practice.
Good
right?
Game.
Get out of here.
Love you. Go hug your parents.
Yep. You know, and even if it's a bad game, hey, not the best today. Go home, reflect on it. What'd you do good? What'd you do bad? You know,
let me watch the film.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, going through those experiences and then coming back when we're all kind of clear-headed and can have a better look at it. And I can say too, from many times, how I feel after a game, and then I go watch the film, it doesn't align. And, like, there's times where I'm like, I think they played a bad game. Like, they weren't really in it. And I go watch the film and it's like, oh man, they did some nice pieces here. Yeah, they made some mistakes here, but there's a lot of positives out of this. Way more positives than the negatives.
Yeah. The film doesn't lie, right? And it is our eyes, we miss so many things. And good coaches see a lot while the game's going on, but you can't see everything. You can't see everything all the time. It's not possible.
It really isn't.
In any sport. Right. And because what you end up doing is watching the ball. For young coaches out there, I don't know if soccer is this way or not, But for basketball, you should never watch the ball as a coach. You know what the ball, especially when your team has the ball, because you know what the ball's doing, right? You put the play in, you know what the offense is doing. You need to watch everything else if you want to be a good game coach within the game. And it's a really hard thing because the ball scores, right? The ball's what scores. But it's one of those things as development of coaches, at least in basketball, and I think football's the same way, of seeing what's happening elsewhere on the floor or on the field.
Yeah, I think as a fan, you watch the ball.
Totally.
Right. As a coach and, as a player, I tell the kids all the time, this game is about 95% of what you're doing off the ball than when you actually have the ball. And as a coach, that's one of the things we look for to identify the quality coaches or where coaches need more work is, are you coaching the ball or are you coaching what's off the ball and helping in that realm?
Yeah. I want to get into that. I got to take a note here because I forgot to write that down. And I want to talk about how great of a job soccer does at training coaches. But we'll get to that in a second. So in your program, another thing that I've read, and I know that you believe in this just from talking to you about it, is kind of sport is a great classroom for life, right? And you get these kids, whether they start with you young, but you get them somewhere along that journey in their life. And they spend as much or more time with you or their coaches, depending on what sport they're in, than they do with their parents in that waking hours sometimes are more with you. And you guys take this holistic approach to training people. Talk about sort of from the top down of what you're teaching your coaches and training your coaches about what that experience should feel like for the young person.
Yeah, I mean, this goes right to our mission statement. Our mission statement is developing young people for the challenges and opportunities of life through the game of soccer. And that's the heart and essence of it. And so, when everything should drive back to that, and teaching the X's and O's of a sport.
Can you say it again?
The mission statement?
Yeah.
Developing young people for the challenges and opportunities of life through the game of soccer.
Okay, so there's nothing in there mission statement about get every single person a college scholarship. There's nothing in there about getting them to become a pro. There's nothing in there about them getting money, right? It's about the development of the person using the sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
it. It's teaching kids about life. I mean, I know you look at the specialization issue, and we'll get into that as well. But if your primary focus is driven by what you just said, money, fame, by the time you get there, more often than not, you see players who get to that point, that's what's there, they feel empty.
Totally.
And, I have a good friend that is working with, rookies coming into the MLS. And one of the things that he was telling me is, like, you would be surprised at how many people come into the sport and hate it.
I'm not surprised.
Absolutely hate it. And I'm not either. I
had players at Utah. I had players at Southern Oregon University. Everywhere that I've been that got to me. And by the time they got to me, they either hated their parents or they didn't really like the sport.
Yeah.
And we had to reframe their brain about why they loved the game they were playing. Now, not every player all the time, right? But it's enough of them that it's a significant issue that needs to be addressed.
It is. And I think when you look at, the teaching of soccer and what we do, it's allowing players and kids to form identities outside of just the sport itself. I think what ultimately ends up happening for these players that are so focused on one sport, their identity is so tied to it. You see this with pro athletes all the time, and the depression that they go through when the journey finally ends, right? Like, who am I outside of this? I've run into that. I've got teammates that have run into that. And so allowing players to figure out who they are through the game of sport is massive. I had a team that I coached a few years ago, and I took them through kind of a workshop doing some of the stuff like Brene Brown, her Dare to Lead book, I dove into that, gave me a lot of good information around values. And so I took them through a value system. I said, hey, what values do we want to have as a team? What values do you have for your individual self? Just come up with 3 for yourself, come up with 3 for your team. And then we're going to put them together. Interesting enough, I also, put them into a place where, like, tell me what you want out of this experience. And then I asked the parents, I want to hear from you. Tell me what you want out of the experience.
How different was that from the kid to the parent?
Vastly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, more often than not, the kids just want to play. Like, yeah, they do want to, they do want to accomplish stuff, but it's more about, hey, we want to enjoy the experience. We want to play with our friends. We want to have fun through this process. I want to get better at these things. Right. And the parent motivation was more geared around winning or trying to get to college. And just some of these things, it just didn't quite fit.
You know,
it was eye-opening.
It is eye-opening. There's a stat out there, well, all kinds of stats out there, but the one I recently read and I quote all the time, 3% average based on all the sports, right? 3% of high school athletes play Division I sports. 0.3% of college players play in the pros. So if you track that back to youth sports, the number of kids, you and I have a better chance of winning the lottery than we do of our kid playing professional sports.
Yeah.
Everybody in America does, right? And we're in, like, my wife was a hell of an athlete. You're an amazing athlete. We probably have a better chance of producing one, but the overall, there's very little chance that your kid, but what they can get out of it are all of the lessons that you can learn, right? Someday, a kid's going to need a raise, or a young person in a job is going to need a raise. They're going to want a promotion. They're not going to like the person sitting in the cubicle next to them, all the things. And the opportunity to go as a young person, have this relationship with a coach and have these conversations. Why am I not playing as much? May not like the answer, but you're going to hear and have the opportunity to grow and develop. I want more playing time. I don't like Johnny or Susie, or I'm struggling with the way you're coaching me. Like, being able to learn how to have those conversations. If the parents get involved and it's only driven about my kids got to play the most and they got to get to the pros, you're going to miss out on all those opportunities.
Oh, you definitely are. It's, I think what you're getting at is a huge part of it is, you know, allowing kids to learn how to have these conversations, how to advocate for themselves.
That advocate for yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And then too, I think on the flip side, the coach having the ability to be honest with the players and them to receive honest feedback. And, you know, as coaches too, we don't always get it right. And, you know, we can get it wrong and we have to go back and correct that. But it all starts with the relationship. And I think this gets to something even more within the coaching side of, you know, what we should do, not just in our sport, all sports, get away from transactional coaching and move to transformational coaching.
I love it.
It is the essence of what it should be. We're trying to, if we want to better the world, let's make better people. And sport gives us a avenue to do that.
And I think it's becoming even more important in high school that people understand that and hear this message, because college athletics is becoming far more transactional. Because of the nature of NIL, and it just is, in the transfer portal. I'm pro. We're not going to dive into that today, but I'm for that stuff. We need it. I think it's important. But talking to every college coach that I've talked to about the difference, I didn't have to coach in it, but the difference is what you just said. It's, instead of being relational, it's now transactional, right? And so at the lower levels, that's really, really needs to be focused on and taught, and that methodology thought about when we're dealing with young people.
I absolutely. And I think it helps for kids that are going into that environment, right? Like, if you understand the transformational process and what relationships are like, you know, when you step into the college realm or you step into the professional realm, that this relationship might not last that long. There absolutely is going to be a transactional piece, but can we have something transformational within that process as well? And can we build that relationship? And it's not that every relationship, we all have teammates or people that we work with that we don't see eye to eye on, we don't fully get along with, but we understand the common goal and we work towards that.
Totally.
Right? And it's just part of the journey.
So I think soccer does the best job of any sport, probably in the world, but certainly in the United States, of training their coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have I've never been through it, but I have friends that have been through it. You guys have a system that you have to get a certain class of license through training and hours on the field, both coaching yourself and learning how to coach, before you get a certain class license. And then that certain classes only allows you to coach certain kids. And then you have to get a higher level of training before you move up in the coaching world. Did I get that right?
Yeah, somewhat. It's, you know, for the most part.
Okay.
Little rough around the edges, but yeah, but all good.
Take the roughness off for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, now the education system is definitely continuing to evolve and moves. You know, requirements within state associations and even leagues, national leagues and their platforms are requiring a certain amount of educational hours, whether that's through the United States Soccer Federation, which is the licensing that somebody you're referring to, where you have a grassroots licensing into a D, a C, a B, and an A. And the A splits into a senior, that's the pro route, and a youth, which obviously is the youth pathway. When I was coming through, there wasn't a split A route. It was just the A license. And so I went through that whole journey. I actually did my D license while I was in college. They offered that as part of the course. And then, out of there, when I started coaching, went through the C license and the B, the A. When I was going through it, it was more of, each license was essentially like a 10-day period. You would go offsite somewhere, usually to a college. I did a couple down in LA and the Carson area. And then I did my A actually up at Puget Sound. And it's great experience. It's like soccer camp. You're in the dorms, you're there with your crew, your comrades. And it's interesting. The educational side is very valuable, but the networking side is very valuable too. And the people that you meet, and then also hearing too, like the struggles that they face in other markets. Yeah. You don't feel alone. You're like, okay, we're all in this together a little bit. We're all working on the same thing. So there's a good think tank there. But now that's evolving to, the licensing now is structured to where you have a couple weeks where you're in person, and then it's stretched over coursework over, 6 months of time. And then you go through a testing phase, and then obviously pass. And then you have to hold that license for a year before you go get the next one.
Okay. So maybe a little rough around the edges on my end, but the remains the same. You actually have to get training to coach soccer.
Yeah. So if you look at our high level platform, the vast majority of coaches on our upper level and what we classify as the ECNL, are typically either, B or A licensed coaches. So they've already hold that. And then each year you have to do additional continuing education hours through their coaching platform, Coach's Voice, where it's a series of, they give you various topics that you can choose from and go through. But it's good. It's a refresher. It gives you some new ideas, different things to think about, and continuing learning should always be part of the process. If that's part of the process for a player, it should be part of the process for the leaders and coaches of the organization.
And it's the only sport in America I know of that does that.
Yeah.
And that's probably international is the same way, right?
Yeah, like internationally, you have different licensing, throughout the world that they have it set up that way as well. I mean, soccer goes way back. It's it's global game, obviously extremely popular.
And it's, to me, it's a model for what the rest of the sports should be doing. Basketball, and I'm not even I won't go into this too deeply here, but from the sport that I grew up in is being ruined in the United States. You look at the top tier players, both collegiately and in the pros now, and they're almost all from another country. And it's because of the academy-based system that is done in Europe, and the way that we do. Any guy or gal can just show up tomorrow and start a club and start coaching with no training, no knowledge. And it is creating horrible habits amongst young people in the way that we teach the sport that I love so much. I wish that we could get all of our sports to have some sort of basic standardized training for youth sports.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a standard. Coaching. The idea that you can come into the coaching, especially at higher levels, and just come right out of the gate, there's a lot that goes into it. And you always hear just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're a good coach. That's absolutely true. We talk a lot about, a young coach coming in. When you look at soccer, it's broken out at like U6, U7, U8, U10. If you're a new coach, well, you're like a U6 coach. Yeah. You're back at where you were as a player, and you got to go through the process of learning how this works, and the various stages of getting to know your players, learning how to set up activities, how to adjust your activities based on what the kids need, and just it's a dance. How to communicate and work with parents. Like there's a lot that goes into it that people take for granted and don't understand, and let alone the emotional side that it can go down, and how to control yourself in those instances.
So. Let's talk about the specialization word. There's a bunch of science out there, and I know you and I agree on this based on, and maybe not completely, but I think pretty close based on some previous conversations. There's a lot of science out there that says if a second, third, fourth grader starts specializing, they're probably going to be better than the second, third, or fourth grader that's playing a bunch of other sports in the second, third, or fourth grade. But eventually, they're going to either get worn down, get injured, or lose the love of the game and not play. And the kid who's playing multiple sports finally decides they want to be a basketball player, a soccer player, and starts specializing later or reducing some of those sports, has a far greater chance of playing longer and at a higher level. You have a parent that comes in with a youth soccer kid, right, to your second, third grade, says, we think he's a pro. We think she's a pro. What is that conversation with that parent about what specialization looks like and how they should be thinking about the holistic development of their kid for their long-term success?
Ooh, be very careful. Specialization is dangerous. And I think you hit it. Like this isn't black and white. There's some gray in here, and there are absolutely certain kids that go outside the norm and that can do that track. But the vast majority of kids, the data, everything leads to multiple sports. Play it, and what you gain from it. It's interesting. One of the easiest things I can look at is, players are like, hey, how do I slide tackle? And it's like, hey, did you not play baseball? Do you not know how to slide in base? Yeah. Like it's some of these things, or like reading the flight of a ball, like, playing basketball or playing baseball or football, just those types of things, seeing that. They all connect. You look at some of the greatest athletes in the world, they all play different sports.
That's right.
And they all help within that.
Yeah.
Now, I think the bigger question is, what age do you start to specialize? And for me, I think everything before puberty it's like, I can tell you a lot of kids that look amazing, pre-puberty. Puberty hit and they're still not bad players, but
is that the same? Is this the same on both the men's and the women's side, the male and the female side?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's really that different.
Okay.
I think the puberty factor and what comes out the other side of that, going through just kind of the adolescent phase, that's where you really start to figure out, like, okay, what players and what tracks are they going to go? And even then, right, you take, a kid that's a U15 or U16, what they're like now, even though they're coming through the other side of puberty a little bit, what they're like at 18 before they go to college, there's a lot of change within there. There's a lot of change within interests. So the hard part for me is, if you're putting all your eggs in your basket at these very young ages, you are running the risk of burnout. You are running the risk of overuse injury. And you're also setting a child up a little bit for when they go through puberty and all of a sudden, like, well, how did this kid just pass me by? Because they just grew. And now they're like, all their athleticism coming. Like, it's hard for a kid to wrestle. And now you're working with some psychological issues with those players to try to get them through that and get them over the hump so that they can fit within that system.
And I think specialization that happens in the second, third grade is specializing for the parent, not for the kid. And back to the goal of what the parent has for the kid's sports journey versus what the kid's goal for their sports journey is. And you there's so many parents that live vicariously through their kids, and it's a natural thing to want to not have had an experience. I didn't quite make it. I want my kid to make it, right? So I didn't have the great coaching when I was in the second grade. Maybe if I did, I would have made it. But then the other component to specializing so young is that all of the sports have such a different set of kinds of coaches, different kinds of, you already talked about the body movement, but socioeconomic, different cultures, different ethnicities drawn to different sports, team sport versus individual sport. There's so many different things that kids can learn from having a multitude of things instead of just one thing in that elementary, middle school age group. They miss, if in addition to what you already talked about, the burnout and the physical injury that can occur.
I think, a lot of what stems it is FOMO, fear of missing out on something, right? Like, my kid's not going to have this opportunity and it's not just sport. You see this in like early childhood education where like, I need my kid to read or know this. And it's like, well, great. Your kid can read, but they're just memorizing words. Like, what's the comprehension? That's right. And so there's a lot of ways to look at it. There's a great book. I don't know if you've read Range by David Epstein.
No.
He dives into this, not just on the sports side, but like, he talks about it from lawyers and doctors who they go that track route, get all the way through, and then they finally get in their profession and they're like, I don't like this. Versus the people who dabbled. And so the science really shows the people who dabble more and experience more and then show more of their specialization later in life, they have the most joy in their life.
Yeah, every professional athlete I've had on here, or Olympic athlete that we've had on here, played multiple sports except for one, Amy Van Dyken, who's one of the most accomplished swimmers in the history of the world, much less she's a stud.
Yeah.
She didn't. She started swimming at 6. And her only regret, when I asked her what her only regret was that she didn't play more sports when she was a kid.
Yeah.
Every other person that I've talked to as a little kid, played multiple sports.
Yeah.
And it is, there's a common theme with those athletes that reach the top level. And even then, if your kid doesn't reach the top level, they've been exposed to way more things than just one thing.
Yeah. There's a great, I think the guys, Science and Sport podcast did a great episode on Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. And Federer being one where, played a variety of sports, didn't start specializing really until after the age of 14, and then Tiger. And obviously both had great success. But then obviously, when you look at that joy and happiness component, it's a little bit different. And then one of the things they really pointed out is like you don't see all the people that crash and burn, and some of the trauma associated with the specialization and what that can cause. And there's a lot of athletes out there that you can look at that history shows a pretty similar pattern.
All right. So advice for parents. I think we're going to do 2 things here. Number one, as a club owner, that I think you guys get it right? Like you have such a unique experience and background. What should a parent, maybe not just soccer. I'm a parent. I want to get my kid involved in sports, and I'm looking for the right place to put my kid. What should I be thinking about and kind of questions? Who should I talk to? Because it's a really important decision about we're going to drop your 3rd, 4th grade kid off for hours at a time without your supervision. What should I be looking for? What kind of questions should I be asking before I start dropping my kid off?
Well, you should definitely ask your child first.
I love that.
Hey, what do you want? What do you want out of your experience? What are you looking for? Because they're young. And if they're just looking for, hey, I just want to get interested, like I have interest in this and I want to see what it's about, that's going to steer your conversation a little bit differently for, if you're going into club basketball or baseball or even soccer, like who you need to go talk to. My kid's looking for this level of experience. What's the best route? Right. And if a child is then climbing the ladder, same thing. Now you're looking at that next tier. Well, who's coaching in that tier? Have some conversations with directors. If an organization has a director, we do. Or if they don't, go directly to the coach. Like, hey, what's your philosophy? What are you working on? How do you go about this process? And what is your process? Like, what's your ultimate goal here? And if a coach is coming in and just saying, my goal is all about results and winning, you have to be careful of that. Now, I also want to say that winning does need to be part of the conversation.
100%.
We can't sit here and say winning is not part of the development process, but winning is a byproduct of trying to teach and do the right things within it and driving towards that and getting kids to understand what competition is. It does mean competing.
Totally. I want to drill down on that a little bit. I think winning is such an important thing to learn. What we talk about this all the time, that you can learn from losing, right? And you should learn how to get up and go train again with that loss in the background and try to avoid that again. But the goal should be that you win, right? Like that's always the goal. And it's not everybody gets a trophy. When you someday go apply for a job and you get 2nd place in the job interview and they're only hiring 1, you're not getting a paycheck if you got 2nd place at that job interview. So learning how to compete and learning that the goal of winning is okay. It's not wrong to want to learn how to win. I love what you said about, though, that it's a byproduct of all of the good things and the process that you go through to get to the point, if you win, to win. And then if you don't, trusting that process and doing it again.
Correct. At the end of the day, like it's so many people see success and that's what I want. That success is such a short-lived moment. Like you get to experience that for maybe 24 hours. You think a Super Bowl or the NBA championship. Great. You just won that. What are people talking about the next day?
Yeah.
Who's going to win next year?
That's right.
Right. And so where the greatness truly lies in all this is the people who understand that it's just the process. This is what I do. I'm going right back to my cycle. I'm going to enjoy this moment of success. I accomplished this, but time to go back to work.
Yeah.
and that's what I love. I love the process.
Yeah.
And so teaching kids that, teaching parents that, and trying to get them to understand that, because that's what sets them up for life.
I wish I could go back in time. I might be a soccer player and come play for you, man.
Yeah.
So another bit of advice for parents, something that both of us have done, and you're currently doing it, coaching your own kid.
Ooh, it's hard.
One of the things that is part of youth sports, and I don't like it. When I grew up playing for Harbor Lights Middle School in Bandon, Oregon, was the end of my third, 8th grade, and I played for Sitka Junior High School and Westridge Middle School in Oak Ridge. We played for a team, and our coaches were our teachers were our coaches. That world's changed, right? And for youth sports to have programs now, even in middle school, parents have to coach. So it's a reality of life. What is your advice to parents of do's and don'ts coaching your own kid?
It's a challenge. And understand that it's going to test your relationship in different ways. And if you're not up for that, I think probably stepping away and not doing it is best. And you need to have a very open relationship with your child that you can go back and forth. I mean, we talk about the 24-hour rule, right?
How hard is that to follow as a parent in your own house?
It's a challenge, because after a practice or after a game, there's specific moments that we can talk about some stuff, and we do. Like there's times where we do it, but I really try to avoid just going too hard into it. And thankfully my son, like, he's good at communicating back. Like, he's told me before, like, I need you to just leave me alone right now. I need to focus. I feel like I'm just being overwatched, and that's healthy, right? But if that dialogue isn't there, that can be really detrimental to the relationship with the child, the parent. And that's one of the things I don't want. And thankfully he is open in that. And like, I can step back and give him that space and allow him to grow. And then I think too, I'm also surrounded by really good colleagues that have eyes on him and have eyes on the team and can look at it from a different lens. You talked about assistant coaches seeing different things. Like, I have that built into it. And so I lean on them as well. So, what I view my son and his playing capability, other coaches see him in different light, and I can take that input and try to put that into play. But it's not an easy dance, no different than, trying to teach your own child, separating, dad-child relationship versus, player coach relationship. It's a unique one.
Yeah.
And, it is certainly, for those that are out there doing it, good on you for trying that, because it isn't easy.
I think that I love the 24-hour rule. I don't know how both of my kids after a practice wanted to talk immediately. Sometimes it was on them. What did you think? Like, we can't talk about this, right? So if you could do the 24-hour, great. But I would just tell parents, don't talk about it in the car. At the bare minimum, try to give yourself an hour from the time practice is over, the game is over, and avoid that adrenaline emotional conversation. And even if like with my daughter, my wife and I had to start taking separate cars to her games because she's analytical, right? But even that analytical conversation, 2 or 3 days later, something would come back out that during the well, you didn't think I did this very well. And you said this right after the game, and it's been sitting in their brains for the last 2 or 3 days. And you don't want to get into that, right? You just avoid that conversation for at least an hour. You're going to be in a way better space with your kid than as a dad or a mom than as their coach.
Yeah. And in some ways, man, maybe the simple answer to that is like, hey, how about you take a pause on this and we'll circle back?
Yeah.
Right. Continue to reflect on it. I love that you're reflecting, you're thinking about it, because I think as an athlete, as a coach, right, that's part of the process. After the game, it's like, all right, I need to go reflect. Was that a good training session? Was that what could I have done differently? As a player, again, getting back to the process of things, like, you could have the game of your life, a top level player still walking off the field saying, all right, what could I have done differently? And how could I have tweaked that? Like, I felt really good about these things. And I think helping a child understand that process of, all right, you just finished your game. Let's not talk about it. I love that you're reflecting, but keep reflecting. We'll circle back in an hour or 2 hours, or maybe the next day.
I don't think the idea being that nobody on their deathbed is going to say, God, I wish I would have had more arguments with my kid in the car on the way home from practice.
Yeah.
Right. Like, no. I wish I'd have had more good time with my kids. So, and coaching your kid can be a great time, can be a great experience. I've had both ends of it. I've had the days where I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this? I'm sucking. I'm failing. It's not the kid's fault. I'm failing. I'm sucking at this. But I've also had the other end of the spectrum where I just absolutely some of the best moments of my life, having been around my kids and their sports. So figuring that part out is critical to making sure that relationship stays healthy.
No, absolutely. And I feel very grateful that I get to, essentially coming up on this spring is my 20th anniversary with the club, 2 decades of time of doing this. And, I get to share this experience now with my own son, and he gets to see from my lens a little bit too, of this is what dad's done for his career. And this is why he's been gone for, certain times of that's why daddy was missing from that, because he was focused on this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to share that with him and that journey, and even my wife having more of an inside look at it too, from a parent lens with him, it's cool. It's really special. Yeah,
it is cool. All right. And Emmett's a great kid too. I wanted to get your name out here, Emmett, so you're a part of the show. Okay, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. We end the show the same way with everybody. Ooh. Is there anything that I missed? Do you think we should have covered, man? Is there anything related to the club? You guys are easy to find if someone's out there and a soccer parent. UnitedPDX.com, right? Is there any other places, or how should people get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, all our information is on the website. Definitely come check it out. We offer a variety of platforms for kids, and we're here to help you through that journey.
Not just the elite kid, right?
Not
you
just
want
the
every
elite
kid that wants a chance to play soccer,
there is a place to play within our organization. We want to meet you where you're at with what your aspirations are, and go from there and help you along that way.
In your club, you have soccer, but you also have, physical training and individual training. Can kids get sports psych through you guys? Can they, or do you have people that is your academy a complete umbrella of all of those things?
Oftentimes, no, not so much. So we'll refer out. We do have a pretty vast network of people who do private trainings, things like that, or sports psych. We are well connected in that, and so great opportunities to go there. One of the greatest things about our team, especially our leadership team, is we're all essentially 20 plus years in the industry. Been doing this a long time. Education background, you're
either crazy or dedicated.
We're a little both, probably a little both. But we can certainly help people find that. And that's, sports psych is a whole nother topic that we could dive down that rabbit hole that, is very important as well.
Well, for your listeners, we did a whole series, 18-part series with one of the top mental performance coaches in the world named Hannah Huseman.
Mm-hmm.
Her company's called Mental Sweat. So anybody that's listening to this that has not seen those, you can go to our channel and they're in there. Remarkable. She's won World Series, worked with NHL, NFL, soccer, across the spectrum, and people in the boardroom, about 10 or 15 Fortune 500 companies, C-suites. And it was just fascinating conversation about how the brain works and little tips and tricks for families and parents and young coaches to help their kids train their brain. It was a fascinating conversation.
Sounds amazing. It's such an important piece.
Yeah, it is an important piece. All right, man. Winding this up, advice to yourself. If you could go back to that 14-year-old kid moving around from place to place, knowing everything that you've been through journey through life, and you could tap yourself on your shoulder, what advice would you give yourself, a 14-year-old kid?
Two things. Really instill in myself patience, compassion, forgiveness through the process. The 3 elements that I think are key and vital. And then, the other side is to advocate a bit more for myself and really focus on trying to have more conversations with the coaches around me, and what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, how I see things, and helping that relationship build even more. I think that just one would have made me a better athlete, and then gave me a step ahead of some of the things I learned later in my life.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing of the day. You got a dad joke for me?
Oh man, put me on the spot. Dad joke. Phew.
I've got one. If you don't.
I don't have one on the top of my head, but if you got one, let's hear it.
Okay. Just in case you're ever in need of a good dad joke, I've got a dad joke book here.
I'm gonna have to get this book because it's important. Laughter is a key ingredient.
It is, man. Okay, let's see. These are just. Let's see here. Boy, I'm trying to find one. I went to the wrong place here. This is just a bunch of readings. Yeah, I'm struggling.
Oh, it's got to be a good one now.
Okay. No, I can't read that one. Okay, here we go. How many bodybuilders does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
3. 1 to do it, and 2 to tell him, you're looking huge, man. You're looking huge. Here's another bodybuilder joke. This is the bodybuilder page.
Yeah.
What did the bodybuilder say when he opened his tub of protein powder?
Ooh, what?
No way.
Yes.
One more. This is I maybe shouldn't say this one, but I'm going to anyway. Did you hear about the weightlifter who got kicked out of his house?
No.
He was squatting.
Oh, that's fitting.
There's so many good ones. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. This has been a fascinating conversation, and it's awesome to know you and to know that there's people out there in the world of helping young people have the philosophy of what you guys stand for and live. It's pretty cool. Thanks for doing this.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate that you're putting time and energy into this. You know, like there's a lot more good out there happening in the youth sport than the negative, and it's a journey for all of us.
All right, till next time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.